Namaste. Welcome to the beginning of another live Sangha. I'm grateful to be here. I trust that you are feeling as well as you can at this moment. Our first guests are just joining live, and I'd love to welcome them. Hello, dear P-Flowmatics. Hello, dear Tatwamasi. Thank you for the quintet of roses. So quick. Hari Om Tat Sat. And P-Flowmatics, thank you for your heart me. Radhe Radhe. Hello, Crossfires. Hello, dear Codeman and Gabriel. Hello, Cowgirl. Namaste, Lynn. Namaskaram, Emily or Amelie. Namaskaram, dear Alonzo. Hello, dear Kate, dear Gabriella, the Oracle reads. Pixie Pixie, Dansuela. Welcome. Oh, how do I pronounce your name? Dalian. You can tell me. Hello, dear Jocelyn. Welcome, Gabriella. I trust you are all feeling as well as you can be in this moment. If there are any difficult things going on in your life this time, remember that this too shall pass. Thanks for being here, dear Donzuela. Hello, dear Krishna Baldeo. Welcome, Cassidy and AJ. Very happy we could all be here together. Welcome, dear Lauren. And thank you, dear Lena, for the rose that you sent too. Jai Sitaram. I'd love to know how you're feeling if you want to share. You never have to. Do I have a mother? A mother fun mantra. Another fun mantra for the moment. Well, I was about to begin with the mantra, the Shanti Mantra from the Taittiriya and Katha Upanishads. So allow me to do so. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryang Karva Vahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvisha Vahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Divine protect us both together. May the Divine nourish us both together. May our studies be vigorous and effective, and may we not mutually dispute or hate any. May there be peace in us. May there be peace in our environment, and may there be peace in the forces that act on us. You feel terrific, dear Riri. Oh, I am happy to hear that. Hello, Heliosphere. Hello, Ayura. Hello, dear Neangelo Pack. Nice to have you here, dear Julian. Hello, dear Danny. Nice to have you here, dear Matt. Hello, dear Julie. Thank you, Danny, for the heart me that you sent. Ganganapatai Nama. And Ayura, thank you for your heart me too. Hare Krishna. And Neon Jello Pack, thank you for your heart me and love charger. Don't think I've ever got a love charger. May we all be charged by love. Jaya Satchitananda. We will be doing a meditation today, dear Ayura. As always, in our Nididhyasana section of our Sangha. Today we'll continue with the third verse of the Murtha-Sanjeevana mantra, the ancient death-reviving mantra from the Rig Vedas. But we'll start with a little show and tell from Oliver, who sent in a beautiful picture, and then we'll start the first chapter of the 4th act of our book, The Journey Home, and then we'll open the floor into Q&A. We'll have a question of the day about hospitality, and we'll have an intermission of some poetry by Rumi. Petting a cat is a good way to be love charged too, dear Lauren. Thank you, Truth Seeker, for the heart me that you sent to. And hello, dear Tamiya. How are you? That's true, P-Flomatics. Petting a cat replaces mala beads. And you can do 108 or whenever your cat stops you. Whichever comes first. It's meant to be. If it's only 10 pets, then that's how many conscious breaths or mantra japa recitations you do. Hello, dear Mariham. Welcome. And good evening, Al. Hello, Corina Hernandez. Welcome just for now. Hello, Caro, Leroy, and Carne. Welcome. So why don't we start off our Sangha with the show and tell. I think you guys are gonna like this. It's very short. Short and sweet. So, today's show and tell comes from Oliver. I call it Train Henge. Oliver hadn't written anything about this because it was actually just a photo they sent me, but I thought it was such a cool photo that it deserved more eyes on it. So, allow me to share it with you all. You'll see why I've titled it so. Just as Stonehenge might be described as a certain construction in which the stars and the sun and the moon align according to the calendar, so too this beautiful photo of a train. I'll make it nice and big for you. Can you see that? If you look right in the middle, through the window of this train, you'll see the sun. I can zoom in right on that for you. Isn't that awesome? That's a great photo. It's beautiful. I agree, Gabriella. Whoa, shares Aira. Beautiful, shares Al. That's surreal, shares dear Lauren. Such a gorgeous photo, shares Donzuela. Wow, shares Tatomasi. And then of course we have whatever this is called, carrying electricity. A very well framed photo. So yeah, that's today's show and tell. Thank you for looking at that with me. Very pretty. Where is the sun traveling to? Looks like a sunset to me, but I'm not sure. Hello, dear Jacqueline. Oh, I see what you meant, Donzuela. You mean with the train. The sun has climbed aboard. The sun seems to be responsible for taking the train to its next destination. Yeah, the sun is the conductor. I like that. Exactly. Westward. Probably. So, if anyone else ever has anything that they wanted to share, it could be something like that, a simple photo. Please check out the submission form in the link tree in my bio. Next we shall continue where we left off, in the journey home. All aboard! Get your ticket stamped. Welcome, dear Brittany, dear me, or Millie. That's right, the sun is taking the journey home. What's that, dear Michelle? If that's the second part of a comment, I don't think the first part came through. What? I'm happy to have you here too, dear Al. Well said, dear Bike Bear, and there's no tickets for this trip. The Sunset Express. Oh, that's good, P-Flomatics. Yes, drinking some dihydrogen monoxide. I look forward to reading this beginning of a new act of this book with you today. So let's continue, shall we? Today we begin the fourth act of the journey home. It's titled Forest of Grace. Chapter 1. May this reading relax your mind and awaken your heart. Let's dive right into it. Vṛndāvan. Anticipation filled my heart. With each step I trod on the 8-mile stretch, I was thrilled. Lining the asphalt road were huge tamarind trees and spacious fields. A bullock cart overloaded with straw passed slowly by, its wooden wheels creaking while a team of oxen strained, snorting foam from their nostrils and clacking their hooves over the asphalt. A jalopy of a bus approached from behind and halted. The door swung open, and the driver, beaming a semi-toothless smile, beckoned me to climb aboard for a free ride. How could I refuse such hospitality? The driver wore the visible markers of a religious life, a shaved head with a tuft of hair at the back and a sheet of cloth wrapped around his waist. When we arrived in the town of Vrindavan, I asked him where the river was, and he pointed the way. A few steps later, a farmer stood blocking my path, his palms pressed together in supplication. Gleefully he exclaimed, "Welcome to Vrindavan. Whoever comes here is Lord Krishna's special guest." Clasping my hands, he effused, "I am a Vrajabasi, a resident of Vrindavan. It is my duty to make you happy. Let me arrange food and accommodation for you." "Thank you very much, but I'll be happy to sleep on the bank of the river and beg for food." Casting his head down, he grew desperate. "Please accept my humble service. If you do not, how can I show myself before my Krishna?" His humility was too difficult to deny. I instantly loved this Vrajabasi, feeling him to be a family member welcoming me home. He arranged my stay at the ashram of an old blind Swami and departed. That afternoon I left behind a crowded ashram to roam into one of the lush forests of Vrindavan. As I walked, I pressed my feet into the soft, fine sands, strolling among ancient trees whose trunks swirled upward, each one cloaked with a white, orange, or yellow flower and shining green leaves. A sweet lowing attracted my eyes to a herd of white cows grazing on the shrubs. With wide, glistening eyes, they gazed at me as if they had always known me. Strangely, I felt the same for them. I walked on. A startling, protracted caw rang out, and I turned to see a peacock. The plumes of his brilliant tail fanned out, and his iridescent neck moving gracefully back and forth. Next, a deep, resonant drew me to a huge white bull that loped along the pathway, chewing lazily on scattered shrubs. Looking up into the trees, I saw a flock of bright green parrots with curving orange beaks and bright red eyes. They chattered to one another, took note of me, and then soared off into the sky. Monkeys with brown fur, pink faces, and green eyes swung from branch to branch like mischievous children, all the while screaming, "Chee! Chee!" Through the treetops, I could hear the rumbling of monsoon clouds. Perfumed by blossoming flowers, a breeze carried a cool mist that caressed my skin. But of all the lovely sights and sounds, it was the song of devotees chanting hymns that most lifted my heart. Small girls balanced clay water pots on their heads as they sung Radhe Radhe and danced down the sandy pathway lined with forest, shrines, ashrams, and thatched houses. I followed the children until we reached a clearing. There I beheld the river Yamuna, winding with a gentle majesty through the forest. Wooden rowboats plied along, transporting ladies dressed in colorful saris, men with white turbans casually wrapped around their heads, and talkative children whose skinny, restless legs splashed in the water. Lining the riverbank were medieval domes of intricately carved red stone, under which Vrajabasis gathered for shelter from the sun and rain, all the while chanting Krishna's names. As temple bells resounded in the distance, my heart swelled with surprise and gratitude. After more than a year of wandering, I felt I had finally found home again. I saw a sadhu sitting in the hollow of a tree near the riverbank, whom, I was told, was 110 years old. He wore only a burlap loincloth, and his matted hair wrapped his head like a crown. His aged face drooped with folds of skin, and he had to lift his heavy eyelids with his fingers in order to see. With a stroke of the hand, he beckoned me. I soon discovered that he was a Mauni Baba, one who has taken a vow never to speak, and his only means of communication was a piece of broken slate and a clump of chalk. As I squatted down beside him, he scratched 2 large words on the 10-inch slate. People think. Then he erased the words with his bare fingers and continued writing. That the people, he erased again and wrote, of Vṛndāvan, erase, are crazy, erase. It is true, erase. We are crazy, erase. Then he wrote in big letters, for Krishna. Altogether, people think that the people of Vṛndāvan are crazy. It is true, we are crazy, for Krishna. This too he erased, then wrote again in sections, if you stay here, you will become crazy too. Then he smiled, as if he knew something I didn't. The next day, Gary and I met again. With huge festival crowds congesting the town, Gary longed to escape to a quiet place in the Himalayas, but the mystical forest of Vrindavan was pulling me, and I decided to remain a few more days. Gary would go on ahead, we agreed, and in 5 short days we would meet at the Brahma Ghat in Haridwar to carry on our pilgrimage to Amarnath. Sure, we would see each other soon. We said goodbye easily. In those few days, I saw no foreigners in Vrindavan. Indeed, it appeared that Vrindavan's charm was hidden from the West. I rejoiced, for I had observed that when Westerners frequented any place in India, commercialism tended to spread like an epidemic. Affected by the atmosphere, a longing to learn about Krishna awakened in my heart. Since that day they had been stolen from me on a Delhi street corner, I no longer had any books to refer to. When I asked a local man where I could find books in English about Krishna, he directed me to the Ramakrishna Hospital. Reaching the neatly kept one-story building, I entered and inquired about books. Nurses and housekeepers stared curiously. They brought me to the director of the hospital, Shakti Maharaja, a disciple of the famous yogi Sri Ramakrishna. Just then, a mutilated woman was hurried in. She had been hit by a bus right outside of the gate and was a bloody mess. The staff frantically assembled to save her. Preoccupied by the crisis, still Shakti Maharaja turned to me and asked, "How may I help you?" I knew it wasn't good timing and was myself stricken by the crisis, but asked anyway. "Maharaja, do you have any books about Krishna in English?" He stared at me in disbelief. "This is a hospital, not a library. Come back if you're sick." "I'm sorry, I will go." He reached out and touched my forearm. "No, stay," he said, offering me a seat. He promised to return in a few minutes. When he returned, he drew a map and explained, "You should go toward the temple of Madan Mohan. Everyone knows where it is. Close by is the ashram of Swami Bon Maharaja. They will have English books." I followed the map, walking along various roads and pathways. On top of a grassy hill overlooking the Yamuna River was one of the most beautiful sights my eyes had ever beheld. An intricately carved temple of red sandstone. It was an octagonal spire that rose about 60 feet into the sky, then tapered and again widening at the top to form a huge flower-like disc. This was the 450-year-old temple of Madan Mohan. But a feeling of intimacy that touched my soul. Climbing down the hill and through a narrow lane, I approached the ashram and, unlatching the gate, entered a quaint courtyard. To my right was a temple of Krishna. To my left, a small temple of Lord Shiva and a flourishing garden of tulasi bushes. Tulasi, in the botanical family of basil, is widely considered sacred to Hindus. A young Bengali sadhu appeared from the kitchen, dusting flour from his apron. "I welcome you," he said, introducing himself as Gopesh Krishna. Little did I know that in the years to come, this simple cook would become the guru of that mission. He led me into a small office where he offered me some water and an English book about Krishna before returning to the kitchen. I read for several hours. Then, returning the book to the bookcase, I set out for the Yamuna. But at the main gate, I encountered a man in his mid-20s with sparkling blue eyes and white skin. He had a shaven head and clad in saffron robes. "My name is Asim Krishna Das," he smiled. "Welcome to Vṛndāvan." Offering me a seat, he excused himself for a moment and returned with a plate of fluffy rice and spiced vegetables. Eating eagerly, I asked him how he came to live in India. He told me that his given name was Alan Shapiro and was from New York. He had traveled through Europe and Israel, and ultimately his search for spirituality brought him to India. In the Punjab state, he said, he met a saint named Mukunda Hari who advised him, "Go to Vrindavan, there you will find everything." Asim smiled. His words were prophetic. As I was leaving, He offered, "If there's anything I can do to serve you, that will be my greatest joy." The following day I roamed alone in the forest and eventually returned to the riverbank just beneath the hill of Madan Mohan Temple. I was to leave early the next morning for a Hardwar, where Gary was waiting for me. When night fell, I offered my farewell to the land of Vrindavan, but my mind was divided. Lying down to sleep on the earthen riverbank, I thought, Vrindavan is attracting my heart like no other place. What is happening to me? Please reveal your divine will. With this prayer, I drifted off to sleep. Before dawn, I awoke to the ringing of temple bells, signaling that it was time to begin my journey to Hardwar. But my body lay there like a corpse. Gasping in pain, I couldn't move. A blazing fever consumed me from within, and under the spell of unbearable nausea, my stomach churned. Like a hostage, I lay on that riverbank. As the sun rose, celebrating a new day, I felt my life force sinking. Death that morning would have been a welcome relief. Hours passed. At noon, I still lay there. This fever will surely kill me, I thought. Just when I felt it couldn't get any worse, I saw in the overcast sky something that chilled my heart. Vultures circled above me, their keen sights focused on me. It seemed the fever was cooking me for their lunch, and they were just waiting until I was well done. They hovered lower and lower. One swooped to the ground, a huge black and white bird with a long curving neck and sloping beak. It stared, sizing up my condition, then jabbed its pointed beak into my ribcage. My body recoiled. My mind screamed, and my eyes stared back at my assailant, seeking pity. The vulture flapped its gigantic wings and rejoined its fellow predators circling above. On the damp soil, I gazed up at the birds as they soared in impatient circles. Suddenly, my vision blurred, and I momentarily blacked out. When I came to, I felt I was burning alive from inside out, perspiring, trembling, and gagging. I gave up all hope. Suddenly, I heard footsteps approaching. A local farmer herding his cows noticed me and took pity. Pressing the back of his hand to my forehead, he looked skyward toward the vultures and, understanding my predicament, lifted me onto a bullock cart. As we jostled along the muddy paths, the vultures followed overhead. The farmer entrusted me to a charitable hospital where the attendants placed me in the free ward. 8 beds lined each side of the room. The impoverished and sadhu patients alike occupied all 16 beds. For hours I lay unattended in a bed near the entrance. Finally, that evening, the doctor came and, after performing a series of tests, concluded that I was suffering from severe typhoid fever and dehydration. In a matter-of-fact tone, he said, "You will likely die, but we will try to save your life." Taking the thermometer out of my mouth, he read it and pronounced, "No solid food for the next week. Your diet will be glucose water only." With those words, he departed. Overcome by fever and nausea, with no strength in my body, and teetering between life and death, I lay there. There was little money to treat the patients in this charitable ward, so we received only the crude basics. Once a day, the doctor made the rounds, giving a few minutes to each patient. Nurses appeared from time to time, but not a single one spoke English. Other patients wailed in agony all night long. The first night I was there, one man died, and death would have been a blessing to an emaciated old man in the bed next to mine. Silently bearing his miseries, he would lean over to pass red urine in a small pot kept on his bed. He coughed blood constantly, often spraying on my face. Ugh. One sweltering night, as I lay immobilized in anguish, patients throughout the room howled, moaned, and screamed in agony amid a stench of sweat, mold, and excrement. Why am I here? Why did I leave my home and family and friends in Highland Park? And what about poor Gary? I'll never know why I didn't meet him. Placing my life in the hands of God, I prayed, I am yours. Please do with me what you will. All night long, I softly chanted the words that had begun to bring me solace in the most troubled moments. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The next morning, having somehow heard the news that I was ill, Asim came to visit me. Accompanying him was a beautiful old man whose eyes glistened with spiritual love. This is one of the greatest saints in all of Vrindavan, Asim said. His name is Krishnadas Babaji. Babaji wore only a simple white cloth around his waist. It extended just above his knees. Another piece of cloth draped around the back of his neck and hung over his chest. His head and face sprouted bright white hairs. With indescribable compassion, the elderly Babaji gazed upon me. Then, reaching out, he patted my head and burst out, Hare Krishna! Every day they both came to bless me. And every day, Babaji filled my heart with a healing joy, and his laughter sprang from the bliss of his soul. One day, 2 of the young doctors in training came to my bed and took turns firing off a litany of questions. But I had one question for them. What disease does that man in the next bed have? One of them stared blankly and replied, Contagious tuberculosis. He added, Please be careful, sir. If you inhale his cough, or if one drop of his blood falls in your mouth, you will catch it too. What? Then why is he kept in a crowded room? It is our policy. No one is quarantined unless the laboratory tests return positive. Unfortunately, our laboratory is closed because the technician is sick with tuberculosis. Therefore, no quarantines are permitted. Lifting his umbrella, he strutted toward the door and turned to me. It is certain that the man beside you has the contagious germ, so please be careful. It was pleasant to meet you. Good day, sir. A few days later, the poor soul died before my eyes. One day, sitting on my hospital bed, I wrote these words to my family. Where there is faith, fear cannot exist. May you all be blessed with good health, happy lives, peace of mind, and love for God. Richard, Vṛndāvan, September 1971. After about 10 days, the doctor released me with the instruction, You must not travel for 1 month. Pointing his finger into my face, he warned, The way you sadhus travel, you will not survive. Stay in one place and eat simple rice. The news that I was not allowed to leave troubled me. My first thoughts were of poor Gary. What had he thought when I did not meet him in Haridwar? After tearing him away from all his friends, now I had abandoned him alone in India. Would we ever meet again? But part of me was happy to stay and discover what more Vṛndāvan held for me. Thank you for listening. This is the end of the first chapter of the fourth act. If that sparked any revelations, insights, or questions, I'd be delighted to hear them. And I very much look forward to continuing our journey with you next time. That concludes our Śrāvaṇa section, dedicated to listening. I very much enjoyed that chapter and the little show and tell from Oliver. I welcome everyone that joined while we were reading. And now my attention can return to the comment section. And we can transition to Manana, dedicated to Q&A. We can explore whatever's in our hearts and minds. This book is surely full of plot twists, isn't it, dear Jacqueline? Always happy to read to you. Welcome, dear Icarus. Hello, dear Stevie G and Ingrid. Hello, Emma. I'm not sure how much of a bedtime story that was. A little gross, but very holy of a place he is in. Hello, dear Cody James. Thank you for your moderation, dear Donzuela. Thank you to those who sent a gift whilst we read too. Dear BBL, thank you for the trio of roses. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hello, Ale, dear Jazz and Laura. You're very welcome, dear Yin Yang. Glad you liked it, Bike Baron. Thank you, Michael, the Rose, for the rose. Michael the Archangel, in fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Rudraya. And thank you, dear Shakira, for your heart me too. What's that, dear Jake? Oh, the policy in the hospital, no quarantines. What irony! Only the lab technician can grant quarantines for tuberculosis, but he's away with tuberculosis, so no quarantines. My goodness. Yeah, that was funny. If that's what you're referring to. Thank you, dear Bon Bon, for your pair of roses. Radhe, Radhe. Dear Dallas, you ask, am I Buddhist? I am not identified with any particular path, but I love to draw inspiration from Buddhism as well as every other tradition that graces my path. Thank you, Mark, for the rose and tiny that you sent to. Yippee! Namaste, dear Miananda. Good evening, Charlene from Sweden. How are you feeling? Dear Marky, you are feeling very lonely today. Pardon me. Do I have some spiritual guidance for you? Well, I'm happy to be here with you. Remember that you're not alone in feeling alone. Many people in the world feel alone, and that makes sense in the context of their lives and what many places in the world are facing. Sorry. Sneeze crept up on me. If you can blur the lines between yourself and the rest of the universe, then you won't feel so alone. You may feel in your solidarity, here you are, but you are connected with everything else in the universe from exactly where you are. In that sense, you are not alone. Thank you, Shakira. Yeah, I took a shower and I shaved, so that might explain my appearance today, dear Hihi. Have I been to Nepal, asks Dallas. No, I have not, but these beads just came from Nepal on my wrist. Thanks to our dear Sangi, Tatwamasi, who sent them to me. And what a beautiful place Nepal is. I hope to visit it physically one day. Dear Miananda, you shared that we need a new tsu. What's a tsu sticker? Is that the sound a sneeze makes? Tsu. Choo. TSU. Thank you, Marquis. Lauren, you asked, do I know the sound of kittens sneezing? I sounded similar to a sneezing kitten. Oh, did I? That's fun. Yeah, you should hear my late grandfather sneeze. It was like an explosion going off. I think we all have someone in our life that sneezes like a bomb has been detonated. Thank you, yes, dear Tatomasi. And have I not replied to your message on Telegram? Oh my goodness. I don't even know if I deserve your hospitality if I haven't yet. You sneeze like a grandpa, shares Niangelo back. It feels better, yeah. Part of the pranas, the flow of energy in the body, definitely a release. Thank you, dear Marquis, for the heart me that you sent to. Om Som Suryaya Namah. Are you from Nepal, dear Dallas, or you just visited? You recommend Gandruk near Pokhara. Thank you. You have planted the seed. And thank you, dear Jake, for your bare finger hearts as well. Om Krinkalikaye Namah. Charlene, you had shared a very wise, sweetest person once said, I believe in everything. I loved that. Yes. I was thinking about that today. If you're ever troubled by what to believe, just remember that that's your choice, and your choice is a magical one. You may manifest precisely what you believe in. You're a very pale Texan, shares Dallas. Oh, well, I see where the word Dallas comes from in your name then. Yeah. Well, that's funny. Lots of sun in Texas. But if you're like me, you probably don't tan. You just burn. That's actually partly true. I used to burn until I got a really bad burn, and then I kind of stopped burning, and then I started actually tanning. It was very strange. It was like my karma had to be done with. Okay, you've experienced the worst of burns, now you just tan. Yeah, too much sun there. Either white or red. Exactly. That's funny. Stevie G, you think that a whole reel of all my funny and weird goofy moments should be made. That's a great idea. I like that. I don't know if I have the patience to do that. Maybe I can write a program to do that for me. But then again, we'd have to find a way of getting a computational intelligence to pick up on the nuances of comedy. And I like your advice, dear Bike Baron. Welcome, thank you, E. Hello, dear Azarays. That's funny, E. The sun hath accepted me, dear Miananda. He feels that I could make a perfect vampire. Probably. Yeah. Although I don't think blood is very sattvic, and I try for a sattvic diet. You know that joke? I had a friend that he actually got into a really bad situation where he was hurt really badly in my company, and it's actually really tragic. He ended up dying, but I'll never forget how positive he was. In fact, his last words while he was looking at himself bleeding, he was saying, "Be positive. Be positive." Yeah, I'll never forget that. It's interesting, dear Stella. I hope you all got that joke. It's a blood type joke. I didn't actually have a friend that bled out in front of me. You got it. Okay, good. Some of you putting prayer emojis in chat. Yeah. Thank you, dear Anasek, for your heart name. Om Namo Bhagavate Dakshinamurtaye Mahyam Medham Prajnam Prayacha Swaha. Dear Stop Talking. Stop talking, yes. Thank you for being here. What's a belief that I have that could be described as a belief in the supernatural? I think everything is natural. Everything I've experienced, I believe, is part of the natural flow. Yeah. In fact, I don't really even have beliefs outside of what I observe in this moment. There's even something called Last Thursday-ism. Last Thursday-ism is the idea that everything in existence, including your memories, could have been put in place last Thursday. I mean, it's not provable, but it's also irrefutable that it's possible that all of existence, including your memories, came into being last Thursday. You would never know. There'd be no difference. So technically speaking, I can't even believe that anything before this moment happened. Because you could be Last Thursday-ism, you could call it Last Friday-ism, it doesn't matter what you call it. You just pick one for the sake of it sounding funny. What truly exists is this moment, and all that is within it that I can experience is what I believe in. So you could confirm with someone else that existence happened before last Thursday, but what if they were put into existence last Thursday with all of their memories also? You see? There's no way of proving otherwise. Thank you, dear Anazek, for your hand hearts as well. Hare Ram. Dear Silent Storm, thank you for your heart meet. Om Kam Namah Prajapatay. Oh right, it was the third Tuesday of last week. That's right, Pete. Hello, dear J13. Thank you, Honey Bunny Official. I grew up in Calgary, Alberta, which is kind of like the Dallas, Texas of Canada. People are always wearing their 10-gallon hats and riding their horses. But I currently live on Vancouver Island, which is kind of like the Hawaii of Canada. Dear Enzo, you had asked, why would one have a fear of intimacy and how to heal that? Everything that we fear is likely a product of that happening, something negative happening in relation to that already in our past. Probably if someone fears intimacy, then in their intimacy with someone else, or even themselves, something bad happened. And by something bad, I mean you got traumatized. That someone lied or broke your trust, or hurt you, took advantage of that intimacy or vulnerability in some way. And so, as a mechanism for not getting re-traumatized, that fear arises to protect oneself of intimacy, since there's a belief that the intimacy was necessary to have been hurt. And so without intimacy, then we won't get hurt anymore. How to heal from that is to substitute that belief that it wasn't the intimacy that was the cause of pain. It was not your fault for being vulnerable with someone else. And you can still get hurt in life even if you have your walls up and protect yourself. So the question is, if you're going to get hurt in life no matter what you do you want to live life to the fullest with proper boundaries where they need to be, or hiding behind walls and basically being trapped within our own comfort zone? Healing means forgiving yourself, means forgiving others for the life that they lived, that they unfortunately chose to express in a healthy way. And opening up again, finding a safe space with others and being treated with respect. Dear Random Videos Pics, you ask, what does my name mean? Well, the reason my name is Yam is because it's an abbreviation of my full name, Liam. L-Y-A-M. And Liam comes from William. And the Liam part originally was from Wilhelm. Wilhelm became William. And the helm part of William became Liam. And helm is the same root of helmet, which means protection. So Liam, like helm, means protector. Hello, dear Crystal Dawn. Shakira, you share that Calgary sounds medieval? Oh, it's definitely not medieval. Crystal Dawn can tell you, also being born in Calgary. You've actually been to Alberta. That's fun, dear Dallas. Have you ever heard of a 10-gallon hat, dear Hihi? It's a Western thing. Now I can concur, dear Stevie G, that Vancouver Island is a very magical place. Dear Ray Angel, what do I think of Leo from Actualized? I don't think I know who that is. But maybe you could tell me about him. Or her. Or them, I don't know. Dear Sensei, you ask, do I still have a fear of death? I don't have a fear of death, but I have a fear of not living my life to the fullest. And instead of that fear of death holding me back, the fear of not living life to its fullest pushes me forward out of my comfort zone. It's a good fear. Dear Riri, you ask, is Vrindavan still full of crazies? Probably. I don't think that much has changed in the last 50 years since the story took place. Do I believe in astrology? Asks Sensei. What I love about the question of belief is it's always a matter of definition. If you have the right definition for something, then that's your template for how you can experience that. And then it's no longer a believe or not believe kind of thing. Astrology is a way to dissect a person's prarabdha karma. And I'll break that down very carefully. Karma is the ancient Sanskrit word that means action. And our actions extend back before our birth. Think about all the actions that led to this birth. Actions associated with your being didn't start with birth. It goes way back. Infinitely so, in fact. And it will continue. The actions that are associated with you will continue after this body returns to Mother Earth. All actions have fruits called phalam in Sanskrit, the consequences. And if you want to dissect the consequences that you will face in this life based off the actions from before this life, then that's where tools like astrology or palm reading or divination or tarot cards come into play. These dissect your prarabdha karma, which is the karma that will come into fruit in this life. It's not the same as destiny, because you cultivate your destiny with your free will. That's where the other type of karma comes in. That's kriyamana karma in Sanskrit. That's the actions that you still have the ability to make independent of the circumstances that you face. And that is where life really takes place. Not in the consequences you have to face from the past, but in your ability to create new outcomes for the future now. This is all to say that astrology is only helpful to a point of understanding your prarabdha karma, but it says nothing about the decisions that you will make in your life, and that is your free will. Dallas, you're wondering if I am from a German heritage. I think I have a couple % of German. A little bit. I'm mostly Irish, however, because William is Irish. Wilhelm is definitely more German, but I get Liam from William in the Irish sense. Dear Emma, you ask, have I visited India? This body has not. The Spirit certainly has. And thank you for sending your love, or obrigado for sending your love from Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. My little dark age. Aggie. Do I still study math? Stop talking. No, and I never really studied math either. What I did is I played with math. That's all I do in life. I just play. And through my play I gain experience. And I gained a lot of experience through playing with math. And I haven't really played with it in a while. That's funny, dear Stevie G. Yeah, there is a parallel there between many people's conception of God and your role in The Sims as deciding the lives of all these beings. I would say the difference between God and you playing The Sims is that God can't decide what we do. You can control what the Sims do, but God cannot. And the reason that's true is because we are a part of God, and we inherit that free will in this dominion. And as a part of that divinity, we have dominion over our actions. We are responsible for bringing that part of the divine that we are into the world. Sensei, you ask, which is more accurate, Western or Eastern astrology? It's not an accuracy thing, it's what resonates with you. And you test for yourself. Put in your date of birth in a Western astrological website and then an Eastern astrological website, and whatever resonates with you most, go with that. And it might be different for you and for someone else. Thank you, dear Knuckles Deep, for your donut. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namah. Hello. Dear Dale, you ask, have I ever struggled with depersonalization or derealization in my spiritual journey? I cannot say that I've officially gone through anything like that, because that requires a licensed professional to diagnose. But I can say that I've had symptoms of that from my personal experience, and it led to a lot of anxiety and withdrawal from my family, led to a bit of agoraphobia, and I'm very happy to say that I'm on the other side of that now. And this was about 2 years ago when I was in the worst of that, and every day on average has been getting better since then. Dear Jake, you shared that you have a vanilla sky theory that we can prove we're in a personalized simulation. Well, that's where things do get interesting, dear Jake, because although we cannot prove that all of existence was put in place last Thursday, we can prove that this existence isn't personalized for any one of us in particular. And that's because our consciousness actually bleeds into others. And if you are perceptive to the consciousness that you are, as it happens to be shared with the consciousness of others, then this universe no longer feels like one set up for us in this body and mind, particularly. That is the beautiful thing about Atman equals Brahman, the second Schrödinger equation. that the self within you is the same as the universal self. That's an experiential reality. I hope you have a wonderful sleep when you get there, dear Anasek. Dear David, you ask, could I speak to the brain-mind-consciousness relationship? Absolutely. You have a computer. Actually, an even more modern example. You have a phone. I assume you're watching this on a phone. The phone is like the brain. It's the physical hardware. And you can have the brain, but nothing interesting happening through it. In other words, you can have a dead brain. You can have a phone that's turned off. There's something else besides the hardware. There's the software. That's the operating system. Maybe your phone runs on Android, or someone else's phone runs on iOS. That's the mind, the software. It's not tangible. It's not like you can open up your phone and look at the software running. Yes, in theory, you could look at the flow of the electrons and the little gates, the logic gates, the transistors open and close. But are you really looking at the software? Or are you looking at the software running on the hardware? Just like the wind blowing a flag, you can see that there's wind, but not by directly perceiving the wind, but the effect it has on the flag flapping in it. Finally, you as the witness, perceiving and interacting with your phone and the operating system, that is the consciousness. The consciousness is independent from both the software and the hardware. There's the user, there's the user interface, and then there's the interface hardware. Consciousness is the user. The user interface is the mind. And the interface hardware is the brain. Sensei Lu, you ask, why consciousness, or God, or universe, manifests suffering, like in animals too, so brutal. Animals do go through a lot of suffering, indeed. And it's our purpose as humans to ensure that Mother Earth, Mother Nature, that we are part of, suffers less. And I've actually answered your question by saying that suffering provides us with a purpose to help others. For every being in the universe that is suffering is a purpose within us to be of help. And we have come to be of help. That is our destiny. I think I've answered your question at the same time, dear Mahogany, but we can explore that deeper as well. Thank you, Babel Fishy, for the septet of roses that you sent. Om Namo Bhagavate Rudraya. Dalita, thank you for your heart, me too. Om Hrim Namah Shivaya. Oh, that's cool. Dear Dallas. Do I miss playing around with math? I stopped talking. No, because what I liked about math I can find in other places of my life too. Just like how you don't have to be sad if a loved one passes away, because you can find everything you love about them in your experience still today. Everything you love about something never leaves. Where and how you find that which you love, that may come and go. In fact, that will come and go, because all forms are ultimately temporary. But what you love, the essence, always remains. And thank you, dear Oren, for the heart me that you sent. Om Bhram Bhairvaya Namo Namah. Namaskaram. Dear Fairy Brat, you ask, what are my beliefs on love and marriage? I think love can take place in many forms, and love is a kind of marriage. If we just think about the literal meaning of marriage, just the most literal meaning, it means to bring things together. Any two things that are brought together is a kind of marriage. That is to say, the marriage takes place before the marriage. The union is already happening before any formal agreement. So, it's a beautiful thing to go through such a ceremony. However, the ceremony is the love itself. The marriage is not an event in time, it is the continual process of love. Hello, dear Blackwood. We be doing some yammering. Dear Hybridgen, you ask, is it true people can have their emotions controlled by deities? No, your emotions are always something that is within your dominion. Emotions are natural, part of this body, this mind, and you have ultimate governance over this body and this mind. The divine cannot do that. However, the divine can provoke you with circumstances that brings out certain reactions. And it's a test to see if you do react in the way that people think you will. The ultimate goal in spiritual practice, in this sense, is that your emotions should be up to you completely. Up to you as the divine, and not determined by your circumstance, your situation, which is determined by the divine. So if you let your emotions be controlled by your environment, then yes, indirectly the divine can control your emotions, but not for the purpose of wanting to control. In fact, the divine is hoping that you don't react in the way that the divine assumes you will to the situation. The divine sends a person that in most people will trigger anger, and the divine is hoping that you don't get angry. That kind of playful test that doesn't have any consequences for failing other than we get angry. But we are so rewarded when we pass that test and remain non-reactive. We allow our feelings to be determined from within, that we choose to be happy. We don't let the world or its situations choose to make us happy. So Dallas, you ask, on a similar vein actually, was I always very chill and happy? No. I chose to be sad and anxious and angry at the world for a long time. Dear Stevie G. Yeah, exactly. The divine will send what is best for our mind. It's up to us to make that happen or not. Dear Gabriel, you share that I don't seem to be as skeptical of superstition as you are. Was it always that way? Well, it depends what you mean by superstition, because I don't consider myself to be superstitious. I've broken many mirrors in my life. I've walked under ladders. I've seen black cats, and I still feel lucky. I have no problem with cursing the divine, because the divine knows the intention in my heart. I can say, screw you, God, but God knows that I'm just joking. So these external forms are not so important. What is most important is what is on the inside. But I absolutely was skeptical, and don't get me wrong, I still am a skeptical person. All of my logical abilities and intellectualization is still there. I can hold up a conversation on theoretical mathematics and philosophical complications of all of the things that we talk about, but I choose not to. And I choose not to because I've also realized the limitation of logic. That logic never made me a happier person. In fact, just trying to comprehend all of the logical fallacies that exist in spirituality just made me less happy. But then I realized I was looking at the world wrong. That the world isn't something to logically dissect. It isn't an intellectual problem. If you think about how we are as children, children are happy not because they have this rational idea of the world, but because they embrace the mystery and just have fun. And that's all I do, is I have fun. Nothing is serious, but I take things sincerely. And so, just like the key to having a good movie watching experience is to suspend your disbelief, don't scrutinize over the details of whether that actor messed up their line, or the CGI is good, or the director had a weird choice here. If you assume that it all has meaning, then no matter what movie you watch, you will come out smiling ear to ear, like that was a great experience. And we can do that with all the world's spirituality, religions too. I guess my point is not take anything seriously, including the fact that you don't take it seriously. You are free. Thank you, Oren, for the team cheers that you sent. Om Param Hanumate Namah. And dear Bobby, thank you for your heart me team cheer and cheer you up. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namah. No, I have not read any of Dolores Cannon's books. Dear CFI Munden. You have a great memory, dear Emma. Welcome, Raw Ariel. Hello, dear Zia. Much love, Jasmine. Thank you, Hybrid Jen, for your rose. Om Am Namah Parashaktiyai. Dear Riri, you share that animals don't think, so they live fuller than we do when they don't suffer. A lot of suffering does exist in the mind, and humans definitely overthink. But you can tell when a cat is thinking. The cat's looking at something and the gears are turning. They're up to no good. Mischievous thoughts are brewing in that little noggin. I'm from Canada, dear Raw Ariel. Hello, dear Ehlers. And thank you, Anasek, for your 50 roses. Om Bhur Bhuvaswa Tatsaviturvarenyam bhargo devasya dhimahi dhiyo yonah prachodayat. Ellers, you're wondering, what shampoo do I use? You're like me. When I was in school, that's all I'd ask my teachers, just ridiculous questions like, what shampoo do you use? Until I got in trouble one day because Constable Rabbi, an RCMP officer, was coming to give a talk on drugs and alcohol. And we were supposed to submit anonymous questions in the box, and he would read them out. And I didn't know what Constable Rabbi looked like. So when I say that I wrote, what shampoo do you use? And I didn't know that he was bald, I mean it. And when he read that question out, what shampoo do you use? And he just touched his head. And the whole class went silent. I died a little inside. I felt so bad. But then he gave an honest answer and everyone started laughing and it was a good time. But I use Not Your Mother's. It's actually the name of it. It was a joke that my mom got me that because I'm always using hers. And so she got me one called Not Your Mother's. It's a brand name. Am I a vegetarian? Asked Dallas. I happen to be. Yeah, but I think it's more of a coincidence. I trust what my body needs, and I haven't eaten meat in over a year. My body is happy and healthy. But that wasn't like, it wasn't like one day I woke up and I was like, today I'm gonna be a vegetarian. It was, I didn't even think about it. In fact, I just noticed it like a few months into, I was like, wait a second. I stopped it, when did that happen? And I don't even think I can give you an exact date. It's so many things on the spiritual path, they happen naturally. Don't even worry about it. Continue in your spiritual practice and these things just happen. That's funny, dear Stella. You can't blame Dionysus for last Thursday. Dear Sensei, you ask, have I seen a prey of a Komodo dragon suffer in the wild, or a buffalo, or an antelope? I've seen nature documentaries. Yes, nature do be scary. And that's the dharma of these animals, that they survive off of eating other animals. And I think it's easy to be absolutely frustrated with why an animal could be put into this existence only to die such a gruesome death. But that's coming from the idea that we only ever get one shot at life, which I don't think is a particularly helpful idea in those situations, because it puts so much pressure on all life forms to live a perfect life without suffering. But if we already are immortal, not in the sense of our body, but in the sense of our consciousness, then suffering of the body and mind isn't as serious anymore. Don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean we should just allow these things to happen. We do have a duty as humans to be caretakers for those who are suffering. Animals alike humans. But that we mustn't grieve for the loss of consciousness. That consciousness hasn't gone anywhere. In other words, it's only the body and mind that has suffered. Consciousness doesn't suffer. Hello, dear Shana. I'm doing well, thank you. How are you? Dear Ellers, you share you've struggled with chronic health issues for years. Are you being punished? No. Not at all. The divine, the universe does not punish, nor does it reward. The idea of a punishing or rewarding God is not a reality. If you look deep down, the divine only gives lessons and blessings, and every lesson is a blessing, and every blessing is a lesson. Health issues are lessons. But if we can look through those lessons, we can find the blessings from what we've learned from those lessons. And it's not a punishment. There is no punishing God. There is only an all-loving God. Thank you, Hybrid Jen, for your 25 roses. Om Shri Hanumate Namah. Dear Stop Talking, you ask for general advice for addictive or compulsive behavior. When you are finding yourself in a loop where you are searching for some outlet, it is probably because you're avoiding something. Because what addictions, compulsive behaviors do is they distract us from our real problems. Addiction isn't a problem, it's the result of a deeper problem. It's a symptom. You can be free of an addiction but still have an underlying cause that would have produced an addiction in others. This is all to say that the addiction itself is not what you have to address. It's something much deeper. Just like you can cut off the leaves of weeds, but the roots are still there and the weeds grow back. Addiction is the leaves sprouting from the root of some misunderstanding of yourself. If you understand yourself to just be this body, this mind, then hedonism is the most natural, rational conclusion. Making your body and mind feel good is the result of misunderstanding that you are not the body and mind. Most addictions and compulsive behaviors, they make us feel good because they gratify our senses. If you search for fulfillment not in the body and mind, but in the service of others, if you dedicate yourself to a good cause, you will find the need for any sort of sensual gratification drops off like exponential decay. In other words, shift your awareness from serving the mind and body to serving the self in others. Dear Dallas, you had asked, how did I choose to control my anger? You struggle with that. I didn't, because the key word is control, and you cannot actually control, per se, any emotion. In fact, it's the attempt to control your emotions that is a projection of their control over you. If you understand that they are not something to control, then that is a reflection of their lack of control over you. How you treat your emotions is how they treat you. If you try to control your emotions, then they control you. So a person who is unnecessarily emotional is not someone who has a lack of control over their emotions, but someone who tries to control their emotions too much. They try to force themselves to feel a certain way at a certain time, that there's a certain time that they're allowed to be sad, and a certain time that they're not. So the ironic way to free yourself from being controlled by anger is to let it pass without trying to change it at all. And when you let it pass, naturally, this means that it doesn't catch on to you. It doesn't procure some action from you that is ultimately going to cross another person's or your own boundaries. Then you will find that just as quickly as a sensation arises, it also passes. Dear Zia, you had asked a beautiful question. Thoughts on where to draw the line between thought being us and being the separate observer of thought. You can't. Because when you draw the line, that assumes that the line can be drawn within your observation, as if there's something for you to observe before and after that line. There is no line, other than the thoughts are just an option for you to express yourself through, if you choose to do so. Think of those water parks that have all of those big slides. When you climb up to the top, you see all of these different slides that you choose to go through. People only suffer their thoughts if they feel like every slide demands you. That I must go down all these slides. But it's up to you. You can choose whether you want to go down the yellow slide or the red slide or the green slide, or wait until you have another opportunity at the water park of life. Or you can just stay there. You don't have to go down any slide. In the same way, thoughts are just dialogue options of life. Whether a thought expresses you is up to you in that moment. If you decide this thought doesn't represent you, then that's all it is. It's just a thought. If it does express you, then it does take on your nature, your essence, and then you bear the responsibility for that thought. But that's only if you choose to identify with it. Thank you, dear Brenda, for the heart me that you sent. Om Dham Namaschandarai. And Check Engine Life, thank you for your quintet of roses. Sorry, quintet of finger hearts. Here's some for you. Om Kamalyar Mahakalikai Namah. John Simon, thank you for your heart, me too. Jaya Sitaram. And Andy, thank you for your rose. Hari Om Tat Sat. Thank you, Stop Talking, for another heart, me. Om Hrim Om. Who's that, dear Blair? Would you teach me? No, I have not seen that, dear Neonjello Pack. My weekend was well, thank you for asking, Goran. Hello, Adri. So Stevie G, you ask if you should worry about quitting eating meat or quitting certain habits. That happened naturally for me. So what right do I have to assume that it won't happen naturally for you too? I'm no different from anyone. Thank you, dear Check Engine Life, for another pair of finger hearts. And Dayu, thank you for your heart, me. Ram Ram. Dear Dill, you ask, what's the most challenging thing I've come to experience in my lifetime? And how did I get through it? I don't know if I can point to any moment in particular being the most challenging. But one that certainly comes to mind is this 2-week stretch of my life where I was in and out of the hospital for my anxiety, It was so much existential dread that I even thought if my life was worth living. And my body had a visceral reaction to my mind state, that my mind was so chaotic that I was throwing up and I couldn't even sleep. It was truly, I felt like I was living in a horror movie. And mind you, that's not a lot. I mean, people go through so much worse things than that in life. But for me, it was the highest amount of fear that I had. So it was 100% fear that I'm used to experiencing. And what was the question in there? The question was, how did I get through it? I started chanting. It's so ridiculous. I started chanting. I started doing mantras. Mantras saved my life. I can say that with certainty. Chanting mantras saved my life. And it wasn't the mantra. It wasn't like any particular mantra had the power to do that for me. I could have chanted anything. I could have chanted bing bong, bing a bong, bing bong boom. But the point is I dedicated my mind to sending my love to some aspect of the divine, and that was exactly what I needed. I needed to assume that I had something within me still worth giving to the universe, and that was my voice, that was my energy, my heart, and that helped me remind myself that everything I need is within. I'm not missing something from the universe. There's no pill that a doctor can give me that'll help me. There's nothing that a therapist can say that will bring me into the truth of who I am. I have to find that within. Now, I have to be clear that I still ended up going on medication temporarily, as well as getting therapy, because those things are still helpful. They are helpful at the level of the body and mind, but at a spiritual level, nothing else compares to directly inquiring about the nature of your purpose and reality, yourself. And having a stable platform to do that makes it all the easier. And so I do recommend that if people have the capacity to be medicated for something or get therapy, then that will only help them. It won't take away from their spiritual journey. Spiritual journey and modern medicine are not a choice that you have to do one or the other. You can bring them both together in harmony. And I'm grateful for that. And thank you, Tan Hao Yu, for the heart me that you sent. Om Som Somaya Namah. Dear Riri, you ask, when a dog misses its owner, is it thinking of the future or living in the present? Well, the thought takes place in the present, even if the thought concerns a time that may come in the future. But ultimately, a dog missing its owner is not thinking about a future time, but it being now. I wish my owner came through the door now. I wish my owner came through the door now. Oh, in this moment, I am missing them. In this moment, I am feeling their loss. In this moment, I would love for their presence to be here. Now, I understand you have some reservations of how the Christian God of the Old Testament is, but there's no such thing as a Christian God. There's no such thing as a God that is defined by any religion. There is only God. There is the God of you and I, a God of all life. But there is no God of any one particular religion, because it's all the same divinity. And if anyone tries to tell you that God is one way and not another, that God is limited to a certain thing, Well, just you remember that God is unlimited and leave them on their merry way. You don't have to grieve over someone else's misconception of a truth that is within you. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Yes, being attentive to other suffering is a consensual process, dear Dragon's Eye Angie. Thank you, Anisek, for your quartet of finger hearts. And a friendship necklace. Om Brahm Bhairvaya Namo Nama. And thank you, Check Engine Life, for another hand heart. Om Aim Saraswatyai Nama. Hello, lobotomy enthusiast. Oh, your presence is a gift itself, dear JK. Hello, Andy. Hello, dear Nisa. Dear Stop Talking, you had asked how to make a consistent thing of serving others without upending your life and joining a helpful organization. Your body is an other too. Remember, your body is not the self. So when we say serve others, that includes serving this body, because the body is part of others. If you're serving others but not this body, then you're not truly serving others. You're forgetting to serve the person that's closest to you in your life. So please, serving others starts with serving this body, this mind, but it doesn't end there. Thank you, dear Viber Zero, for your Heart Me and Team bracelet. Om Im Maya Shaktai Nama. And Gabriella, thank you for your Heart Me. Om Kam Namav Prajapatai. The water park of life. Check Engine Life, you ask, how do you know if a thought expresses you? Only if you choose to? Serious question. Yeah. You choose how you express yourself. If there was some way of knowing what defines you, then that means that you aren't defining yourself. So to empower your own free will necessarily implies that what defines you is completely and solely decided by you. So Stop Talking, you ask, what does serving the self mean? Well, it doesn't mean being self-serving. Not even self-serving means serving the self. Because self-serving actually means serving this body, this mind, exclusively. But this body, this mind is not exclusively the self. It's kind of a... what's the name? A misnomer. Actually, being selfish is serving something that isn't yourself. And being selfless is to truly serve the universal self. It means creating beauty in the life of everyone. Beauty in terms of healing, in terms of art, in terms of noble causes to give yourself to. Yeah, we do choose what we experience in this life, dear Heliosphere, but not all of that has been decided consciously. For example, when you are working out, let's say you work out your body and you wake up tomorrow sore. Did you choose to be sore? Well, not exactly. It's not like yesterday your decision was, I'm going to be sore. No, your decision was, I'm going to work out. But a natural consequence of working out can be getting sore, because your muscles have to repair themselves afterwards. So you choose the action, and then the results choose themselves. What we're experiencing in this life is the results of actions that we chose in past lives. We might not have known the results of our actions that we chose. So there are things that we see that technically we chose to experience, but we were ignorant of that. And that's okay, because it's not a permanent thing we're ever going to experience if it's a negative outcome that we're facing today. There is no kind of punishment under the sentiment of that ignorance. It's just an opportunity to learn more. There's only going higher on the spiritual path. There's no lost progress, and there's no disappointment from the universe. The universe could never be disappointed in you. That's why you have been appointed to be the universe in this body, this mind. Thank you, dear Margawati, for the heartbeat that you sent. Om Tryambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhanan Marityor Mukshiya Mampratat. Thank you, Stop Talking, for another rose too. Hare Krishna. Do I do any salmon fishing, asks Dallas. It's an interesting question. I have gone fishing with my grandfather when I was younger, but we only ever did catch and release. We never caught the fish to eat it or anything like that. What do my mornings look like, asks Emma. Well, if I don't actually wake up in the morning. If you're wondering about mornings, literally, I'm asleep. If you're wondering what my waking looks like, I go on my phone. First thing I do is I go on my phone. and then I scroll for a little bit. I know I shouldn't, but hey. And I learn new things from different cultures and contacts. And I go through my messages. I text my beloved. And I pray, I get out of bed, I start my day with some vitamins, and dear Myrna, my hair is wet. Mantra saved you too. It's beautiful, NSAC. It's beautiful, little duck. I believe in your journey. Thank you for being here, dear Check Engine Life. Thank you, Dallas. You did a mix between spiritual practices and therapy and medicine. Beautiful, dear Myrna. Exactly, little duck. When we say we are God, we don't mean that we have the power to rule this whole universe. It means that we are part of the ruling of the whole universe. It's not that we are all one, but together we are all one. Dear Urmani, you ask, so why should we give God several colors and textures? Why so many different religions? That's the mercy of God. God knows that each individual is so unique that there's a unique path for everyone. And part of religion is to discover God, but that's only part of it. The other half is to express God. So there are many paths to God because there are many of us. And there are many ways to express God because God is one with everything. So it's a shift in understanding. Shift in understanding religions as being something you have to fight over to something that you can embrace altogether. Then you can't get enough of it. It's like DLC in your favorite video game. It's like, oh my goodness. All the religions just complement your own path. Even if you're a Christian, you see a Buddhist and you go, wow, you know, I can make my prayer more like your meditation. Or a Hindu can look at a Muslim and go, wow, you know, I can really honor the impersonal part of the divine, the formlessness beyond name and form. Every one of us can still practice our own path, but yet gain in our experience from the paths of others. Now, I think my phone is vibrating, so allow me to turn the alarm off. Oh, I accidentally disconnected it. Sorry. One moment. Let me reconnect my phone. But please enjoy the floating cat in the void. I think my internet disconnected me for a moment, but I believe my connection has returned now. Thank you for your patience. Thank you, Urmani, for the galaxy that you sent. That was very beautiful and generous of you, and you didn't need to do that. But I appreciate it. Om Namah Karnim Ambita Me Shorim Nadita Me Harim Devita Me I'm Sarasvatyai Swaha. I'm grateful that you find this live stream to be therapeutic, dear hybrid gem. The divine feminine, you ask, how did I learn Sanskrit? Well, it sounds crazy, but Sanskrit teaches itself. And you just have to kind of start wherever and you'll see how it unfolds. But I started in exactly the same situation as you, as just hearing words, people sharing them in contexts like these, and you pick up on it. Just like language learners learn best when they're in an environment where that language is being shared freely. Surround yourself with a Sanskrit environment and you will pick up on that. Riri, you had asked, is an animal suffering different from ours? Because we can imagine a time outside of us when we didn't. Well, can an animal imagine? I like to believe an animal has the capacity to imagine too. We might get lost in our imagination, and an animal can ground itself back in the moment. But ultimately, the consciousness within this body and mind is non-different from the consciousness in any other body or mind. Stop talking, you ask if I can repeat the thing about sensitivity to suffering being consensual or something. I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to. But we should never assume that suffering is consensual. Oh, I think I remember what you were referring to. I said that helping others in their suffering must be a consensual process. We cannot assume that others will accept our help, even if they are suffering, that it's their choice to accept help from us. like that's what you're referring to. What is that question, dear? Stop talking. Sure, you're paranoid, but are you paranoid enough? Paranoia is something I recommend to heal from. There's a beautiful way to live life. There are beautiful ways to live life without that constant fear. Hello, Ecliptic. What's on my mind? Well, right now you are. Welcome. Bike, you ask, can recently made decisions affect us within this run? Absolutely. Yeah. We have actions that are coming from past lives, the fruits of which are coming. Not all of it comes at the same time. There is a sort of pseudo formula for the time span of the consequence and the action, and that's how intensely that action was done. A very intense action will have a very immediate consequence, but just a small, subtle action tends to have longer term consequences. It's not perfect, but the palam, the fruit of the karmas, the actions that we're dealing with now, or whatever the most, whatever the most dominant impressions are in our samskaras, in our impressions of it within this conscious field, what we're experiencing now is usually the most dominant expression from the grooves that have been carved deeply in the past. Ethan, you ask, have I ever lucid dreamed? I think almost all my dreams are lucid. But the more lucid I become, the more real my dreams become also. And it becomes more and more difficult to perceive the difference between the dream and the waking reality. And what do my mornings look like? When I mourn, asks God Complex. When I grieve, I cry. Yeah. I let my body release through tears. I'm grateful that you find calmness here, dear Check Engine Life. That's smart, dear Ecliptic. Good night, dear. Stop talking. I like that. The reason we connect through religion is because it's a study / practice of consciousness and subconsciousness. Unfortunately, there's no Duolingo for Sanskrit. But there should be. I even tried making one once, but it was a lot harder than I thought it would be. Thank you, Liminal Line, for the rose you sent. Om Dham Namaschandaraya. Hello again, dear Dansuela. Thank you for your love, dear Shadi. Simo, you ask, is it hard to be peaceful when peace is taken advantage of to fuel greed and wants of others? That can be a hard lesson to learn, but peace should never be at the sacrifice of your own body and mind, because your body and mind deserve a share of that peace too. And truly, if if you are letting others take advantage of that peace, that's not the long-term peaceful thing to do either. Because they deserve to find peace independent from what they take from you. And so you should give them that space to discover that peace too. Have I finally made my way back to the present moment in the comments? Yes, I have. Goodbye, dear Zia. Riri, you ask, what is being self-aware versus imagining versus thinking? Can an animal be taken out of the moment? Well, no one can actually really be taken out of the moment, because no matter what you're imagining or thinking or aware of, it all takes place in the moment. You could be thinking about how this moment was or will be, but all of that thinking still takes place in this moment. And absolutely the same faculties are there in an animal as in a human. The difference is that a human has an empowered buddhi, which is the faculty of viveka, discrimination. That an animal cannot discriminate between the unreal and the real, but we have the power to do so. That we get to choose what parts of our experience truly represent us, whereas an animal is just kind of equal. We have that power of revelation and concealment of our dharma, of our duty, of our purpose. We can channel the flow of awareness in that way. No, dear Diane, I think we're just in different time zones. For me, it's not even 10 p.m. yet. But how late is it for you? But what is being self-aware versus imagining versus thinking? Awareness can happen without thought. And thinking can happen without imagination. Imagination is just one form of thought, and thought is just one form of awareness. So think of a Venn diagram where the most outer layer is awareness, and within that is thought. There are things within awareness that are not thought, but all thought is within awareness. And then inside the bubble of thought is imagination. There are things that are thoughts that are not imaginations, but all imagination is thought. Like that IQ question. All bleeps are bloops and all bloops are blops. Wow. I'm sorry you've been up a while, dear Diane. I pray that you fall asleep soon. Radhe Radhe, dear Kalki ji. Oh, what a beautiful prayer, dear Shati. Thank you. That's true, Tom Terrific. Sometimes protecting your own peace means accepting you will be the villain in someone else's story. Thankfully, truth shall reveal itself. Thank you, Katie, for the rose you sent. Om Kali Mahakali Kalike Parameshwari Sarvananda Kare Devi Narayani Namostute. Shade praise, thank you for your hand hearts and heart me. Om Narayanaya Vidmahe Vasudevaya Dhimahi Tanno Vishnu Prachodayat. And thank you, Check Engine Life, for your donut. Ram Ram. Oh my goodness. The most generous Coffee Source Rex bought 5 subscriptions for others. One was sent to Robert. Another was sent to Someone with a blank name. This is Tom Terrific, thank you. One was sent to Daniela, one was sent to Andy T, and another to Janine. The blank username was Spectromo. That's so generous of you, dear Tom Terrific. Thank you for doing that. I hope that this space be one of value for them to benefit from, and that I may learn from them in the process. Om Bhairava Rudraya Maha Rudraya Kala Rudraya Kalpanta Rudraya Vira Rudraya Rudra Rudraya Ghora Rudraya Aghora Rudraya Martanda Rudraya Anda Rudraya Brahmanda Rudraya Chanda Rudraya Prachanda Rudraya Tanda Rudraya Shura Rudraya Vira Rudraya Bhava Rudraya Bhima Rudraya Atala Rudraya Vitala Rudraya Sutala Rudraya Mahatala Rudraya Rasatala Rudraya Talatala Rudraya Patala Rudraya Namo Namaha. You will rest at the right time, dear Diane. Heliosphere, you ask, have I ever seen beliefs and feelings as entities? Because that's how you see them in certain form. Absolutely, you can feel like each belief and feeling has a kind of unique aliveness to it. In fact, that is the nature of even subtler forms of life. Life begins as little thoughts, and then those thoughts take on lives of their own. Haven't you seen? I'm sure you have if you share this question, that thoughts can breed with one another. One thought and another thought can come together and produce another thought. And that thought can travel from one person to another and can spread like a virus. Other thoughts can interact with it. There's a whole society of thoughts that exists on the subtle plane of existence. Thoughts are the place in which, quote-unquote, fictional characters exist. Fictional characters are just thoughts. But thoughts aren't just mere mental machinations. They are a whole layer of life. I do have a sock on my mic, dear Annika. But what kind of sock? That's my question to you. It's very interesting, dear Heliosphere. Although I see the truth in that perspective, I do tend to see all parts of my experience as one, rather than separate individual beings. Now, why don't we have a little transition to another episode of, you know it, it's ruminations. I don't want to go too late for tonight, so I think I'm just gonna do this reading, and then I'll have a short question of the day, and then we'll end with a lovely mantra meditation that will probably take a while to go through. So let's continue where we left off, shall we? We are in a part of the Pocket Rumi in the selections of Mathnawi. This poem is called The Lord of the States. I am only the house of your beloved, not the beloved itself. True love is for the treasure, not for the coffer that contains it. The real beloved is that one who is unique, who is your beginning and your end. when you find that one, you'll no longer expect anything else. That one is both the manifest and the mystery. That one is the Lord of states of feeling, dependent on none. Month and year are slaves to that moon. When that one bids the state, it does its bidding. When that one wills, bodies become spirit. I just realized I'm so zoomed out. Let me zoom back in. Hi. And this poem is called The Search. Even though you're not equipped, keep searching. Equipment isn't necessary on the way to the Lord. Whoever you see engaged in search, become her friend and cast your head in front of her. For choosing to be a neighbor of seekers, you become one yourself. Protected by conquerors, you will yourself learn to conquer. If an ant seeks the rank of Solomon, don't smile contemptuously upon its quest. And of all your skills and wealth and handicraft, weren't they first merely a thought and a quest? And finally, this poem is called Your Demand. I like that last one too, dear Myrna. It was good timing. Your demands. O you who make demands within me like an embryo, since you are the one who makes the demand, make its fulfillment easy. Show the way, help me, or else relinquish your claim and take this burden from me. Since from a debtor you're demanding gold, give him gold in secret, O rich king. All right. Those are the 3 poems for this episode of Ruminations. Thank you very much for listening. Now let's go back to the Manana scene, for I have a question of the day, and we'll explore it for a couple minutes, and then we'll end with a mantra meditation. Today my question of the day is, how might we create hospitality in our presence for others? This I'd love to know. And by hospitality, I mean a sense of making the other person feel allowed to be in your presence safely, a sense of healing perhaps. How might we create that sense? Open the door with a smile. I love that, Myrna. Hello! That's good. Soul Invictus, you're wondering, where in hell and tarnation did I get that shirt? This one? Oh, I think you're looking at the effect of my blue screen. It's cutting it out and you can see the galaxy video I put behind it. I wish I had a shirt that looked like that in real life. But it looks much less interesting in person. Good night, dear talents. Lobotomy enthusiast, you share hospitality will be created between the Atmans of our suffering. That is beautiful. I like that. Thank you, Hybrid Chen, for the heart may you send to. Om. Im Namo Vishnave. Dear Check Engine Life, thank you for your half a dozen roses and a heartbeat. Om Dom Durgai Nama. Dear Lotus, you share open your heart chakra. I like that. Yeah. You ask, do I have a friend named Jared? And he is like me. I had a friend named Jared in elementary, middle, and high school. But I haven't stayed in contact with Jared for many years now. And your answer to our question of the day is by accepting who they are. Yes, I love that. It's so simple, but so true. And maybe by being our true self, maybe. Absolutely, dear Heliosphere. Namaste, dear Connor. Well, I'm very grateful that such a book is helpful for you. Autobiography of a Yogi definitely changed my life too. Check Engine Life, you share quiet, calm reflection. Yeah. Nourishment, shares Samra. You love cooking for others, especially when they're having a hard time. Oh, I love that. And Emma, you share really listening. Silence. Yeah. Your name is El Meki Taka from Tamara, Morocco. I don't know if I can pronounce your name better, but please let me know if I can. What does your name mean? Do you know? And thank you, Check Engine Life, for your subscription too. Om Namah Karim Ambita Me Shharim Nadita Me Harim Devita Me Ang Sarasvatyai Swaha. Val, you sure you had a friend named Jared in university? Oh, well, thank you for continuing the friendship of Jared past high school for me. Katie, Chris, you sure you've made the mistake of looking for arguments, but to create hospitality, it's better to just engage with those who enjoy your company. That's a profound lesson. Simo, you share, you just smile, listen, offer, and you don't judge. Also, joking and making things lighthearted helps. It's a very practical answer. Dear John Tyler, you share, be a Hanuman and see Ram, or God, in everyone. I love that. Ram Ram. Yeah, silence and stillness is a great answer, dear Hybrid Gem. Space. Stevie G, you share, simply show love and compassion and also be of service to others. Tatvamasi, you share by giving them space and closeness. I like that. It's a good paradox. Emily, you share by taking care of ourselves so we're well enough to embrace others. That's such a great answer too, dear Emily. Thank you, John Tyler, for your trio of roses. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Raven, you share, find the intersection of positivity, vulnerability, openness, and selfless service. Well said. Sadhu. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to pause the question of the day there for now, but please feel free to share more answers too. Myrna, you share that hospitality is sharing some of what you have in the house. Yeah. And I like the application of that to our body and mind. If we have peace inside, happiness and joy, don't keep it all to yourself. All right. I will add to that. What is my answer? We can create a presence of hospitality by nourishing all of the beautiful aspects we see in others. If there's anything that you know in them that they would like to create as a higher possibility in their life, bring love to that part of them. You know, for example, if they want to be a singer, listen intently to everything they share. Create a space for them to share their songs. Give honest and loving feedback. In Check Engine Life, you add, bring of service to others and accept help when needed. I like that. You have a little black ant crawling in your arm, shares Hybrid Jen. Well, hello, the divine black ant. What a lovely creature you are. Thanks for hanging. If it's inside your house, probably have an anthill to live somewhere else, dear black ant. Now, let me transition to our Nididhyasana scene. Today we shall continue in our series of chanting the Murtha-Sanjeevana mantra. We're going to be chanting the third verse today. Allow me to set it up. And this will be our meditation to end our Sangha tonight. As I said, this is the third verse in the 161st sukta of the 10th mandala of the Rig Veda, very ancient early spiritual revelations. It is said that this mantra altogether has the power even to bring life back from the dead. It is a very technical one, and I've added everything you need to know in order to chant with me. I don't expect anyone to get this on the first time. You'll see in yellow the pronunciation, and I've added some pronunciation tips that you can refer back to whenever you need. For example, the A, A, O. These are all long vowels. Whenever you see an M with a dot under it, it's nasalization and anuswara. When you see the dot below the S or the N, these are retroflex variants. Sha, na, you curl your tongue back. That's in contrast to the S with an accent above it, which is just your regular palatal sibilant like we have in English. Sha. There's also the TH, which is not like the English TH, but just a breathy version of a T, since Sanskrit differentiates between its aspirated or breathy and unaspirated plosives. So it sounds like ta, ta, ta. All together. Oh, also the orange dots and swoops are poetic units, syllables. The lines are heavy syllables called guru, and the swoops are light syllables called laghu. That's in orange. And then in green, you'll see there's a vertical tip mark, which is a high note, and a horizontal line below it, which is a low note. And if a syllable doesn't have such accentuation, then it's just the middle note. And there isn't a specific note, it's just a middle, higher, lower. Ah. Altogether, it sounds like this. Sahasrakshe. Oh, I already messed up. Sahasrakshena shata sharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya doritasya param. And it translates to something like, with the 1,000-eyed one, with the one of 100 autumns, with the offering for long life I draw you forth. May Indra lead this one for 100 autumns beyond all misfortune. And we'll be chanting it 108 times together. And to keep track, we'll use the Rudraksha Mala that I have around your neck. So thank you for holding it for me. Sanskrit is primarily an oral tradition, so it's best to just hear it and then repeat after it. That is to say, don't feel like you have to be studying all of what's on the screen. If you listen attentively, that's all you need to know. Sahasrakshena shata sharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shata sharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shata sharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shata sharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shata sharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shata sharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shata sharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena Shatayusha havisha harshamenam Shatam yathemam sharado nayati Indro vishvasya doritasya param Sahasrakshena shatasharadena Shatayusha havisha harshamenam Shatam yathemam sharado nayati Indro vishvasya doritasya param Sahasrakshena shatasharadena Shatayusha havisha harshamenam Shatam yathemam sharado nayati Indro vishvasya doritasya param Sahasrakshena shatasharadena Shatayusha havisha harshamenam Shatam yathemam sharado nayati Indro vishvasya doritasya param Sahasrakshena shatasharadena Shatayusha havisha harshamenam Shatam yathemam sharado nayati Indro vishvasya doritasya param Sahasrakshena shatasharadena Shatayusha havisha harshamenam Shatam yathemam sharado nayati Indro vishvasya doritasya param Sahasrakshena shatasharadena Shatayusha havisha harshamenam Shatam yathemam sharado nayati Indro vishvasya doritasya param Sahasrakshena shatasharadena Shatayusha havisha harshamenam Shatam yathemam sharado nayati Indro vishvasya doritasya param Sahasrakshena shatasharadena Shatayusha havisha harshamenam Shatam yathemam sharado nayati Indro vishvasya doritasya param Sahasrakshena shatasharadena Shatayusha havisha harshamenam Shatam yathemam sharado nayati Indro vishvasya doritasya param Sahasrakshena shatasharadena Shatayusha havisha harshamenam Shatam yathemam sharado nayati Indro vishvasya doritasya param Sahasrakshena shatasharadena Shatayusha havisha harshamenam Shatam yathemam sharado nayati Indro vishvasya doritasya param Sahasrakshena shatasharadena Shatayusha havisha harshamenam Shatam yathemam sharado nayati Indro vishvasya doritasya param Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya duritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya duritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya duritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya duritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya duritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya duritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya duritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya duritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya duritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya duritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya duritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya duritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya duritasya param. Om Sahasrakshena Shata Sharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Doritasya Param Sahasrakshena Shata Sharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Doritasya Param Sahasrakshena Shata Sharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Duritasya Param Sahasrakshena Shata Sharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Duritasya Param Sahasrakshena Shata Sharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Duritasya Param Sahasrakshena Shata Sharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Doritasya Param Sahasrakshena Shata Sharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Duritasya Param Sahasrakshena Shata Sharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Duritasya Param Sahasrakshena Shata Sharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Duritasya Param Sahasrakshena Shata Sharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Duritasya Param Sahasrakshena Shata Sharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Duritasya Param Sahasrakshena Shata Sharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Duritasya Param Sahasrakshena Shata Sharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Duritasya Param Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya duritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya duritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya duritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya duritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya duritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya duritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya duritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya duritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya duritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya duritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya duritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya duritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya duritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indro vishvasya duritasya param. Am Sahasrakshena Shata Sharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Duritasya Param Am Sahasrakshena Shata Sharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Duritasya Param Am Sahasrakshena Shata Sharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Duritasya Param Am Sahasrakshena Shata Sharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Duritasya Param Am Sahasrakshena Shata Sharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Duritasya Param Am Sahasrakshena Shata Sharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Duritasya Param Am Sahasrakshena Shata Sharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Duritasya Param Am Sahasrakshena Shata Sharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Duritasya Param Am Sahasrakshena Shata Sharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Duritasya Param Am Sahasrakshena Shata Sharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Duritasya Param Am Sahasrakshena Shata Sharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Duritasya Param Am Sahasrakshena Shata Sharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Duritasya Param Am Sahasrakshena Shata Sharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Duritasya Param Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indoro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indoro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indoro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indoro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indoro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indoro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indoro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indoro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indoro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indoro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indoro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indoro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena shatasharadena shatayusha havisha harshamenam shatam yathemam sharado nayati indoro vishvasya doritasya param. Sahasrakshena Shatasharadena Shatayusha Abhisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Doritasya Param Sahasrakshena Shatasharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Doritasya Param Sahasrakshena Shatasharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Doritasya Param Sahasrakshena Shatasharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Doritasya Param Sahasrakshena Shatasharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Doritasya Param Sahasrakshena Shatasharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Doritasya Param Sahasrakshena Shatasharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Doritasya Param Sahasrakshena Shatasharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Doritasya Param Sahasrakshena Shatasharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Doritasya Param Sahasrakshena Shatasharadena Shatayusha Havisha Harshamenam Shatam Yathemam Sharado Nayati Indro Vishvasya Doritasya Param Om. Salutations to Indra. Salutations to the three-eyed one. No, to the thousand-eyed one. Salutations to the thousand-eyed one. The one with the life of 100 autumns. Om. May life be restored. Please forgive me for any inconsistencies. If you wanted to hear the first two parts of this mantra, please check out the earlier recordings. And if you want to listen to the next two parts of this mantra, I hope you look forward to with me when we record those ones as well. Thank you for chanting with me. This has been the Sangha. That was our meditation for our Nididhyasana, the final segment of our Sangha. I'm very grateful that I could have been here with you. If there's anything I can do to make this space more inclusive for you or anyone next time, please let me know. Let's get our background music back in here for our ending. Thank you, dear Dob Darker, for the heart me that you sent. Om Sadhyojatam Prapadyami Sadhyojataya Vainamo Namah Bhave Bhave Nati Bhave Bhavaswa Mam Bhavod Bhavaya Nama. Thank you, dear Hybrid 10, for your trio of roses. Om Vamadevaya Namo Jeshtaya Namah Shoreshtaya Namo Rudraya Namah Kalaya Namah Kalavikaranaya Namo Balaya Namo Balavikaranaya Namo Balapramathanaya Namah Sarva Bhuta Damanaya Namo Manonmanaya Namah. What do those mantras translate to? Asks Arwim. The first one I did after our meditation is actually I don't know. But I do know that they exonerate 2 out of 5 aspects. These 5 aspects are known as the Pancha-Brahma. These are the 5 powers of the divine, of Shiva in particular. The 5 aspects are the power to create as the creator, the power to sustain as the sustainer, the power to destroy as the destroyer, the power to conceal as the concealer, and the power to reveal as the revealer. But let me look the meaning of those 2 mantras in particular up for you. The first one, known as the Sadhyojata mantra. Does it not? Yeah, it does. It means, I take refuge in the firstborn. Verily I bow to the firstborn. Do not consign me to birth after birth. Guide me beyond birth. I bow to the causer of birth. And then the Vamadeva mantra translates to, I bow to the noble one, to the eldest, to the best, to Rudra, and to time. I bow to the incomprehensible, to the strong one, or to strength, to the causer of various forces, and to the extender of strength. I bow to the subduer of all beings, and to the one who kindles the light. Check engine life. Thank you for your friendship necklace. Om Aghorebhyo ta Ghorebhyo Aghora Ghore Tarebhya Sarvatah Sarva Sarvebhyo Namaste Rudra Rupebhya. That's the Aghora mantra, third of the Pancha-Brahma mantras. That one means I bow to those not terrible and those who are terrible, and to those who are both terrible and not terrible, everywhere and always, to the one who is everything. I bow to all thy Rudra forms. And thank you doing it dog mom style. And thank you for your tiny. Yippee! And for your heart mate. Om Tat Purushaya Vidmahe Mahadevaya Dhimahi Tanno Rudra Prachodayat. That's the Tat Purusha mantra, fourth of the Pancha-Brahma mantras, and it translates to, may we know that supreme person and meditate on that great God. May Rudra impel us. Thank you to my lovely moderators for helping keep the peace. To you, I'll do the final of the Pancha-Brahma mantras, the Ishana mantra. Om Ishana Sarva Vidyanam Ishvar Sarva Bhutanam Brahma Dipati Brahmano Dhipatir Brahma Shivo Me Astu Sa Eva Sada Shiva Om. Ruler of all knowledge, master of all beings, commander of all study and devotion, that auspicious God to me, be they just so, the ever auspicious Om. Om Namah Shivaya. Dear Pavel Aguilar, you ask, what do I think about life? I think it's worth living, my friend. May this live stream be an offering to the divinity within all of you. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorandikam. I'm mixing up the mantra from today with our Shanti Mantra. Oops. Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Lead us from the unreal to the real. From death to... No. Yes, but first, from darkness to the light, and from death to deathlessness. Om. May there be peace in us, may there be peace in our environment, and may there be peace in the forces that act on us. Thank you everyone for being here. Please know that this live stream and the clips like the meditation and the readings, they will be uploaded to my Yamsox Live YouTube channel. They're there for you for free without any ads. And if you want to join the Telegram super group or the Discord server, or if you want to message me on Instagram or WhatsApp or email, I provide all of those extensions of this community in the link tree in my bio as social media icons. Hello and goodbye, dear Laura. Thank you, dear Gina, for your pair of roses. Namo Dakshinamurtaye Mahyam Medham Prajnam Prayacha Swaha. May you all have a wonderful rest of your present moment.